We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the boy where the princess is. I was so good, life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, I best align.
Shine.
You are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and chief White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, D-R-N-I-I-Q, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply just tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580, and there we are for your listening pleasure. Subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast, and while you're at it, subscribe to the KBLA 1580 YouTube channel. That way you'll get all your push notifications, all your alerts. You'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, just sort of a community call to action here. We want to remind you that we're going to be on the ground next week in Pasadena at the Robinson Park Recreation Center located at 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena, Wednesday, April 16th from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. You can register at KBLA1580.com. You're invited to enjoy our KBLA 1580 Town Hall. It's all about the Altadena Eaton Fire, 100 days and counting. Can you believe it? 100 days and counting. To sweeten the deal for you, the first 100 attendees will receive complimentary air purifiers. How about that? Plus, we're giving away 100 $100 gift cards. And so get there early and enjoy the goodies. I'll be co-moderating this conversation along with my colleague, Dominique DePrima, host of First Things First here on KBLA. Also, James Farr, the new host of Conversations Live, Altadena Rising. It's our show of record about the relief and recovery and rebuild efforts, centering the voices from Altadena. And so please, please, please know that you are invited to join us on the ground. And I want to meet you. I want to meet you in person. I'm looking forward to being out on the West Coast and meeting you. And so come through. Now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking us off, listen, I don't want to be too gratuitous about the news taking place on Capitol Hill, but you should know this. The House adopts a budget blueprint for Trump's agenda after GOP leaders sway the holdouts. NBC News reporting that Speaker Mike Johnson muscled a revised budget blueprint needed to advance President Trump's agenda through the House today, beating back a conservative rebellion that had threatened to sink the measure just a day earlier. The razor-thin tally with 216 to 214 votes with just two Republicans, Representatives Thomas Massie of Kentucky and Victoria Spartz of Indiana, joining all Democrats in opposition. Trump had endorsed the budget plan, which the Senate adopted last weekend on a narrow 51 to 48 vote. Johnson abruptly scrapped the vote on the budget plan on Wednesday night after he and conservative holdouts privately huddled for more than an hour off the House floor, but failed to come to an agreement. Fiscal conservatives in the House, including several House Freedom Caucus leaders, had vowed to vote down the budget unless they got guarantees for deeper spending cuts. And so that's not good. That proposed $880 billion in spending cuts to Medicaid alone horrified people across the political spectrum, because you better believe in red states, there are plenty of Medicaid recipients. And so I don't know how Republicans are planning to square this at home, but if the House Freedom Caucus got what they wanted, fasten your seatbelt because there could be even deeper cuts than that. And these cuts affect real people, like some of the seniors in our communities. USA Today is reporting about a Doge pothole. Seniors are scared that Meals on Wheels could be on the chopping block. This seems to be a very common feeling out there. It's felt by advocates here in Washington, D.C., who worry about funding shortfalls and layoffs, and it's perhaps most acute among people who rely on Meals on Wheels, whose health and well-being often hinge on receiving nourishment they might not otherwise be able to access. USA Today reporting that the uncertainty comes amid layoffs reportedly hitting 40% of the staff at the Administration for Community Living, which is a federal agency under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, which administers critical programs that support older adults, including home-delivered meal programs. And so right now, tonight, our nation's seniors who depend on Meals on Wheels feeling rather uneasy. Moving along, have you heard about the SAVE Act? The House just passed this Trump-backed SAVE Act. Here are several things that you should know. The House of Representatives, they passed what's called the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, otherwise known as the SAVE Act. They passed that just this morning, 220 to 208. Those were the number of votes, 220 to 208. Let me tell you about this bill. This bill, which received unanimous support from the House Republicans, along with four Democrats, would make sweeping changes to voter registration, including requiring those signing up to present documents proving U.S. citizenship. But tens of millions of Americans, they say that they don't have easy access to such documents, and critics say the proposal would dramatically depress voter participation. This bill that would dramatically depress voter participation now heads to the Senate, where it will need bipartisan support to overcome a filibuster. The safeguard, we put it in quotations because that's what they're calling it, but safeguard for who? The Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act was first introduced last year as President Trump and his allies focused on baseless narratives that non-citizens presented a major threat to 2024 elections. This is an election suppression bonanza. Make no mistake about it. That's what this is about. And so, senators need to remain strong because, the Democrats in Congress have not been in lockstep as so many folks across the country had hoped. And so we will definitely keep our eye on that. When we come forward, it's Thursday, which means we have our Reporters Roundtable. We're excited to welcome Richard Fowler, Fox News contributor and contributing writer to Forbes. We'll also be joined with my friend Paul Mercurio. He's an Emmy-winning comedian who works as a recurring performer on The Late Show with Steve Colbert. He is also here with us. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving Black oasis just 15 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% Black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of Black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of Black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting, on Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominic DePrima, Nii-Quartelai Quartey, James Farr, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate day 100 since the wildfires flared up, and we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting Town Hall, Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. The first 100 attendees will receive a complimentary air purifier. This is a community call to action, brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Lowe's is the destination for Ego outdoor power equipment this spring. See what's new and exclusive, like the 17-inch string trimmer with Line IQ technology that auto-feeds to save you time, and the 22-inch Select Cut self-propelled mowers with a multi-blade system for precise cutting. Shop Ego Days, happening now during Spring Fest at Lowe's. We help, you save. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
National news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and really delighted to welcome my next guest. It's Thursday, so it means it's time for our Reporters Roundtable. Joining us today, Richard Fowler, Fox News contributor and contributing writer to Forbes. Hey, Richard. And I think Richard's still there. And really delighted to also welcome Paul Mercurio. He is an Emmy-winning comedian who works as a recurring performer on The Late Show with Steve Colbert, and he's appeared in his own specials on Comedy Central and on HBO. Paul has a Broadway show called Permission to Speak, and hosts the popular podcast Inside Out with Paul Mercurio, with a lot of great guests, including America's fave, the world's fave, Paul McCartney, among others. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Well, great to have you both here. And what a busy news day. I mean, when is it not a busy news day these days? Right before we hopped on air, the Associated Press reporting that a judge allows requirement that everyone in the U.S. illegally must register to move forward. A federal judge today allowed the Trump administration to move forward with the requirement that everyone in the U.S. illegally must register with the federal government and carry documentation, in a move that could have far-reaching repercussions for immigrants across the country. Richard, like you, I grew up in an immigrant family. There are a number of folks that have many paths towards citizenship here in the United States. What do you make of this decision by the Supreme Court?
This is a very interesting decision by the Supreme Court because a couple of reasons. One, I think this is what the Trump administration wants for a long period of time, because if they're able to find all the 11, when we last sort of checked, this is sort of a floating number, but 11 to 13 million folks living in the shadows, and they have proper identification, then you'll know where they all are. And then maybe, you can then do the next step, which is what he said he's wanted to do since his campaign, which is create a system for mass deportations. Now, with that being said, what I find interesting about this move by the Trump administration is, for a long time, states across the union, including Maryland, including Illinois, including California, they've all tried to issue some form of identification to these individuals, and Republicans have blocked this, right? So Republicans have blocked many states trying to say, we think it is too important to figure out who lives in our state and provide them with some sort of identification, whether that be a driver's license or identification card, so that they can take their kids to school, so they don't feel like they're constantly living in the shadows. And Republicans have balked at that because they thought bringing them out of the shadows would create some form of legitimacy. Now they want to create a form of legitimacy so they can begin a system of mass deportations. I think this is a very interesting move, and we're going to have to wait to see what impact it will have on our larger society. But as we sort of look at the economic trends that we're sort of facing right now, we do know that today the inflation numbers went down a little bit. They're a 6-month low, but I think that those prices will continue to increase. We also know that one of the things that America has depended on, unfortunately, for the past decades has been the labor of undocumented folks in this country. That has sort of been the underbelly that nobody wants to talk about. It's one of the main reasons why we haven't seen comprehensive immigration reform happen in this country, because groups like the Chamber of Commerce and a lot of other major industries, including farming, agriculture, landscaping, and construction, have been very, very sticky about creating an e-verify system, which allows the government to go into a work site and say, we want to make sure that everybody working here is documented and does have the ability to work in the country legally.
Yeah, Paul, I want to bring you into the conversation here. Immediately after this ruling, it was a federal ruling, not a Supreme Court ruling. Let me correct that. Immediately after the ruling, the Department of Homeland Security officials, they emphasized in a news release that the deadline to register for those who've already been in the country for 30 days or more is Friday, as in like tomorrow.
Right.
And that going forward, the registration requirements would be enforced to the fullest. Richard did a good job of laying out the politics of this. Talk about the impact that this may have on our culture. I mean, we are a nation of immigrants. Will this inevitably create, sort of a state of pandemonium?
Yeah, I mean, my grandparents came here as immigrants from Italy, and we benefited from this country, and so in a lot of different ways. And this administration is, I kind of give it the moniker of the big chill, because whether you look at the tariffs in terms of the global economy, you look at all of their positioning in terms of the immigration issues, it's to create a chill. It's to put the scare into people, right? Now, if I were they, I probably would have come out with this, hey, everybody register if you're illegal by Friday, before they treated everybody so badly up to this point, right? Like, who's going to actually go register if you're an illegal immigrant based on the way they've been treating people who are here legally, right? I mean, they're trying to ship people out because they're protesting and they're pro-Palestinians simply because they don't like their choice of freedom of speech. So to me, I don't really see long lines of people on Friday, tomorrow, saying, you know what, let me just change my schedule and go register so the government knows exactly where I am, so they can make it easier on them to deport me with no basis whatsoever. Like, it's ridiculous. And it's an administration across the board that has no agenda other than to put the fear of God into everybody, because that's how dictators operate, right? And sort of on some level, that's what we're going for here. So to me, it's just, I don't think this is what voters bargained for. I understand that the argument is that they voted on the economy, they voted on immigration, certainly, but not the extent to which things are sort of gotten so crazy on the immigration front and the way the government's approaching it. But yeah, I mean, if you're crazy enough, if you're an illegal immigrant, you're hearing this and you're going to go register tomorrow, good luck, because you just made the government a lot easier to come and ship you out,
That's right. And speaking of just these sort of unprecedented moves that really, go against the norms that we've grown accustomed to, NPR reporting that an attorney representing a student protester detained by federal immigration agents, they're not just going after people who are allegedly here illegally, but they're even going after attorneys. Earlier this week, Michigan-based attorney Amir Macklin was detained by federal immigration agents while returning home from a family vacation in the Dominican Republic. This happened Sunday at the Detroit Metro Airport, where he attempted to pass through customs with his wife and children. The rest of his family was able to enter the country without issue, but when Macklin, his turn came, he overheard one of the agents call for assistance for the, quote, tactical terrorism response team. Is that just another term for, federal bullies? Is this what Americans can expect, Richard, as they travel the country and the world?
Well, I think number one, it's important that all Americans know their rights and what happened and what they should and shouldn't do when they enter and exit the customs screening process. But I think it's very important in this moment to realize that over the next 4 years, and I hate to say it this way, but we're going to have to get accustomed to these type of stories because we're going to hear more and more of them over the next 4 years. And there isn't very much in terms of a stopgap measure that can be employed in this moment. We've seen even Trump today in his cabinet meeting, he actually gloated about the fact that major law firms have settled with him and given him hundreds of millions of dollars of free hours. He's going to use them to help negotiate these tariff trade deals. So it's very clear that the Trump administration is very happy with the ideal that they're going to go after their enemies. They're going to weaponize both the Justice Department, the FBI, and other arms of the government to go after their enemies. This also happens after we saw yesterday the president sign a proclamation going after Chris Krebs, who was the person who was responsible for securing the United States electoral system as part of the Department of Homeland Security. He issued a proclamation saying that the Department of Justice should investigate him. So this is not anything new. This is actually what Donald Trump ran on. And as somebody who spent some time reporting on the president, there was a lot of folks in the mainstream media that decided they were going to turn off the Trump rallies, and I turned on the Trump rallies because everything that's happening now should not be a surprise to anyone, because the president, the sitting president of the United States, said this over and over and over again in his 90-minute speeches at rallies. He called it the weave. I called it, this is going to be his agenda. And so this is not shocking to me that this is exactly what he's carrying out.
One of the things that the president also mentioned was releasing the files of the assassinations, the 1968 assassinations of Senator Robert F. Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And today, during the cabinet meeting in the White House, we heard the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, announce that the Trump administration will release files related to the 1968 assassinations of Kennedy and King in the coming days. She said those papers have been sitting in boxes in storage for decades. Quotes, we've been scanning. We've had over 100 people working around the clock to scan the papers of RFK as well as Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. Paul, is there any good that may come of this? I know the King family, is not excited about this release. I know a number of people are not excited about this release. Is there a chance that this release could sow further discord in our country?
Yeah, and I think there's time better spent by our federal authorities than sort of having to deal with this. I mean, to me, based on the playbook of Trump and the Trump administration, my bet is they're trying to blame some minority or minority group for these deaths, right? And empower white people. Again, it's just an administration that this is a guy who in Trump has 2 years to basically make a stamp, and he's going to make a stamp any way he can make a stamp, whether it makes sense or not. Look at what he's doing with the tariffs. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So it's just, let's take as much stuff as we can and see what sticks. In terms of the attorney that was stopped, they wanted to go through his phone, and he had 10 years of information on his phone, friends, family, clients. He said, I can't give you my phone. It's attorney-client privilege. He had to negotiate with them. He finally let them for 7 minutes read the contacts And I was just hoping that they were going to find contacts in the Trump administration, which would have been awesome, right? Like it would have been like, oh man, be careful what you wish for. Oh, look at that, because we already had that issue, right? Where, certain people, they really don't know how to operate phones and the apps. But I'm feeling like Trump's not stupid. He's not, you don't get to this point by being stupid. There's a reason for almost everything. So at first blush, you can't take the first blush with this guy. So RFK assassinate, like MLK assassinate. Okay, well, why? What is the agenda? And to me, the agenda is to maybe get Lee Harvey Oswald, not Lee Harvey, but whoever, to basically sort of find a way to make this more of an ethnic thing or a racial thing when it shouldn't be. And so I'm very suspicious of everything because there's no rhyme or reason to what they do. But in a way, there is rhyme or reason when you look at their history.
When we come forward, we are continuing this conversation with our reporters roundtable and friends. Whether you're a reporter, an activist, a comedian, you value the First Amendment. The First Amendment is a big part of what allows us to do what we love, to contribute to building a more perfect union in the way that we do. When we come forward, I want to get Paul and Richard's hot take on Mahmoud Khalil, where we learned that big question around whether or not he can be expelled for his beliefs alone. The U.S. government is arguing that. We'll get their hot take on that and more. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, you've tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. President Trump has signed an order to boost shower water pressure, reversing Obama-Biden era limits. He says it'll make America's showers great again. The move allows more water per nozzle, ending what the White House calls the Obama-Biden, quote, war on water pressure, end quote. Black NFL wide receiver Tyreek Hill's wife, Lakita, has filed for divorce a day after police responded to an assault call at his condo. Hill was not charged and no one was harmed. He reportedly got upset after she accused him of not being involved enough with their daughter. North Carolina's GOP-led Senate has passed a bill to ban DEI programs at public colleges. The bill also requires schools to block policy supporting DEI goals. And Michelle Obama has shut down divorce rumors on Sophia Bush's podcast, saying she's focused on making her own choices and living with intention. You can listen to the whole podcast on iHeartRadio. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Echo Park cleanup after an earlier car fire has the 2 left lanes blocked on the 101 northbound before Echo Park Avenue. Delays from 7th Street. Also in Pasadena, plywood all over the place. 210 eastbound just past Sierra Madre. Delays pushing back from Mountain. And as you make your way through Irvine, a crash on the 405 northbound at Sand Canyon off to the shoulder. Delays from Irvine Center Drive. We're heading back to Burbank on the 5 southbound at Olive. This crash is blocking the carpool lane. Delays away from Burbank Boulevard.
Imagine a photograph of your favorite place in California. Then right in the middle of it, one piece of litter. Litter has no place in our lives, not one piece. Together, let's change that. Clean California. Zero litter is the goal. CleanCA.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Magic Johnson made a surprise visit to the Pasadena Boys and Girls Club on Wednesday. The Laker legend's visit was part of an event he co-sponsored with Cigna to highlight his support for victims of the Eaton Canyon fire in January. More than 100 kids in the Pasadena and Altadena area attended the fun-filled event, which included games, food, and prizes. At least 71 of the kids at the event lost their homes in the fire that destroyed property in Pasadena and nearby Altadena. In February, Magic joined a rebuilding commission headed by California Governor Gavin Newsom. Magic spoke to the kids and reassured them that their families will have the necessary resources to rebuild. Magic also made it clear that he would not have signed up for Newsom's commission without a strong commitment from Newsom to direct resources to the folks in Altadena. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chucky. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community, educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit casmpvolunteer.org. Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at WalkGoodLA. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and really enjoying our Reporters Roundtable with friends. I'm joined with Richard Fowler, Fox News contributor and contributing writer to Forbes. Also, Paul Mercurio, Emmy-winning comedian, who, if he looks familiar to you, it's because he's a recurring performer on The Late Show with Steve Colbert. And don't you worry, because you'll get a chance to see him again very, very, very soon. He's appeared in his own specials on Comedy Central, but Paul has a Broadway show called Permission to Speak coming out, and he hosts the popular podcast Inside Out with Paul Mercurio. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Great to be here.
And so, we've been talking about some pretty searing headlines. All of us really benefit from the First Amendment, freedom of speech. And right now we're seeing the freedom of speech being put to the limits. Mahmoud Khalil can be expelled for his beliefs alone. That's what the U.S. government is arguing. The Guardian is reporting that facing a deadline from an immigration judge to turn over evidence for its attempted deportation of the Columbia University activist Mahmoud Khalil, the federal government, our federal government, has instead submitted a brief memo signed by the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, citing the Trump administration's authority to expel non-citizens whose presence in the country damages U.S. foreign policy interests. Richard, talk to us about the politics of this and why this is so dangerous for the future of our country.
Listen, I think it's dangerous, one, because what the State Department or what the Trump administration is utilizing to make these determinations is part of a law that sort of sets up student visas in the 80s. There's one section of it that gives the Secretary of State enormous power to determine, and I'm not going to quote the exact language of the law, but the goodness or the worthiness of somebody to or whether or not they're upholding the values of their student visa. And that's what they're utilizing to make these determinations, right? And so Marco Rubio is saying, I don't think you're worthy of a student visa, but I think you are worthy of a student visa. And so this is the law that they're using to make this decision. And the problem with that is, while the law is true, there's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no justification for it. It doesn't sort of stand the disinfectant of the due process clause that exists throughout the United States. And it puts into question the values that we have as a country. Because if you didn't know this, let me tell you something new. Anybody who's on American shores qualify for many of the rights that are enshrined in the Bill of Rights, including the right to habeas corpus, the right to a fair and speedy trial, and the right to due process, right? Meaning that you have the right to see a judge and have your claims heard before a decision or determination is made. And that's what the Trump administration is trying to upend when they make this decision around immigration. What they're trying to say are there's two classes of folks in the United States: those who we believe do not require the due process, and those who do. And that is indeed problematic. And the question now that lies in front of the Supreme Court, which is where this will ultimately end, is there two different Americas? One America where due process extends and many of our rights extend to everybody. And is there another America where that's not the case, right? Because in the case of this student, his defense is, I'm not a member of Hamas. I don't know anybody in Hamas. And I was just expressing of the First Amendment right given to anybody who's here in the United States to have the freedom of speech, right? Whether you're a citizen, whether you're a green card holder, whether you have a student visa. And what the government is saying is you don't have that right.
Yeah. Paul, in this 2-page memo, which was obtained by the Associated Press, it does not allege any criminal conduct by Khalil, who's a legal permanent U.S. resident and a graduate student who served as a spokesperson. That's all he did. He served as a spokesperson for campus activists last year during all those large demonstrations against Israel's treatment of Palestinians in the war in Gaza. You take to the stage as a comedian on a routine basis. And I'm sure there are jokes that you make that might make people a little shifty, might make people a little uncomfortable. But you don't have to worry about, offending someone in government that may go after you and, disallow any due process to play out. Talk to us about any concerns you might have around the effect this will have on the culture of protest across the country.
I mean, it's funny because I was talking about this with a couple of comedian friends of mine, and I'm an attorney by training, and so I come at it from that perspective. But you read the 2-page memo, and it's like you took a college course and you had to prove a thesis, and then you just showed up reprinting the document that the thesis was supposed to break down. I mean, literally, all this filing says is, Rubio's is saying this in the filing, in this 2-page memo, Khalil's activities were otherwise lawful, but he's letting him remain in the country would undermine U.S. policy to combat anti-Semitism around the world and in the United States, in addition to efforts to protect Jewish students from harassment. Well, I mean, if that's the standard, there are a lot of anti-Semites in America. You got to ship out a lot more people than this one guy, right? So what I start to wonder is, if I go on stage and I rail against this, right, who's coming after me? Who's got their phone on, and whose uncle works for the government or knows Trump? Where does it end? I think I understand that this is, all of these activities right now are being targeted at non-white people. Let's put it that way. But as a white guy, I'm one step away, right? Because if I get out of line, I mean, Musk is trying to get access through Trump and the Trump administration, through Musk, they're trying to get access to my IRS data. Maybe I suddenly get audited, right? And they can tie you up. And Trump is litigious. Trump knows how to make people's life difficult. So I think people need to, who if you're sitting at home and you're going, well, that's not my problem. I'm born here. I'm white. I'm not a minority. I'm not this. I'm not Palestinian. I'm not protesting. You don't know. You don't know who you're talking to at the coffee shop, and the next thing you know, those words get back to somewhere. I mean, this is all part of a plan. You don't come into office and then let 1,500 people go who were rightfully convicted as a result of January 6th immediately. That's right. His first act. What is that? He's getting his army together, right? Yeah. And I don't want to sound like the sky is falling or whatever, but I do think people need to invest in this in a way that's like, you know, realistic about what could happen to them. Because it's already a point culturally where, you know, the PC thing is sometimes can, in a comedy club, you know, you got to be careful sometimes, right? It's a little different than it used to be, especially before my day, where I think, you know, and that's right. You know, you don't want to be inappropriate in terms of political correctness, but this is all part of a bigger agenda to control. I mean, look, you oust the Kennedy Center board. The thing he's doing with the Smithsonian, he's trying to control every aspect of our lives. And you have a 9-0 ruling, the Supreme Court, that says you have due process, as Richard was right to point out. If you're on this set territory, if you're on our soil, you have a right to due process. And at the same time, 4 days later, they're filing a memo which has no substance at all, that basically says, yeah, we don't like the guy because he says bad things about Jewish people, so we want to get rid of him. Well, if you're going to get rid of that guy, you probably get rid of a couple of my uncles who says bad things about Jewish people. And you know what I mean? It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. What are we doing? In our remaining 30 seconds, Richard, I want to give you a chance to share with our audience. Tell us something that we don't know. Tell us something that the national news media is not talking about nearly enough, based on the conversations you're having with some of your sources.
Well, I have two big stories that just came out. One story is on Target, which just came out this afternoon. We are in the middle of, we have about 2 weeks left on the 40-day Target fast run by Jamal Bryant. And so that's interesting story number one. I think interesting story number two is, and it's not really a story, but I think it's a philosophy that's being tested by Doge, right? Is what we've seen happen over the years, and how they're sort of demolishing and dismantling federal government is very similar to how we've seen by the same conservative groups, but may I add, how they implemented charter schools in many of America's major cities, right? It's the same type of model. You disinvest in public education, you demonize the people that work in those public schools. And then the third thing you do is you push private alternatives. So if we are keeping track, that means we're probably in the middle of chapter 2. They've started to dismantle and disinvest in federal government, right? And eventually it'll become so unworkable that probably around this time next year, they'll be trying to tell you why Amazon can do veteran services better, or why Meta can do Social Security better. And this is the last phase of the process. So pay attention, because they've done this before, and they're likely going to play the same playbook again.
Our thanks to Richard Fowler for joining us here again. Thank you, Richard. When we come forward, we're going to stretch out just a little while longer with Paul Mercurio, who has a very interesting origin story that has led him to the stage as sought after comedian. We're going to hear that story when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Listen up, fellow Gen Xers. Elizabeth Banks here. The recommended age for pneumococcal pneumonia vaccination has been lowered to 50 and older, even if you're healthy. It's up to us to lead the way. We've done this before. Music videos, fanny packs, even the World Wide Web. Let's do it again and get vaccinated, because we're at over 6 times greater risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Gen X, this is our shot. Visit vaxassist.com and schedule a vaccine today. Sponsored by Pfizer.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. The Live Your Life organization mentors young women, helping them break negative mindsets and see beyond their surroundings. Through career exposure and hands-on training, they're encouraged to think big, stay focused, and make positive choices. Founded by Nikisha, Mama Boo Smith, who transformed her life to become a community leader. Live Your Life is changing lives, but they need your help. They're raising funds to keep their new building open and expand their program. Your donations will support food, clothes, hygiene products, and holiday giveaways. Visit liveyourlife32.com. That's LIVEYOLIFE32.com to help today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and this gentleman right here to the right of my screen, for those who are streaming on YouTube and other platforms, that's Paul Mercurio. He's an Emmy-winning comedian who is also a recurring performer on The Late Show with Steve Colbert. He has a Broadway show called Permission to Speak. And he also hosts a popular podcast called Inside Out with Paul Mercurio, with a lot of great guests, including Sir Paul McCartney. Okay, all right. I see what you're putting down.
Sorry, I don't mean to brag. Sorry.
Who, you? No, not you. So Paul, I mean, I think part of what's so interesting about your story is that you started off as a Wall Street investment banker. I don't know many Wall Street investment bankers that become comedians. How did that happen?
Yeah, I did this. Now, I thought, let me go to law school, be a lawyer, be a banker, amass a ton of debt, and then leave. It's all part of a big plan. You don't understand now. I don't know what happened. I ended up in New York. I went to law school in DC, and then I was in New York, and I was working for a big corporate law firm. Actually, excuse me, the firm is Wilkie Farr and Gallagher, which is one of the firms that just agreed to give $100 million worth of free. Not my decision. I don't work there anymore. But Yeah, I know, right?
Your law firm?
Yeah, yeah. See
What
what
was it-
happened?
what was it
I
like
left,
seeing
and the
that
whole
in-
I left, and the whole place fell apart. That's the.
Well, what was it like seeing that in the paper? I can only imagine.
I was like, what the F? Like, but I know the conversations. Like, Trump's gonna buy the short hairs, man. It's like, there's so, if they were willing to write $100 million check, then think about how much money they calculated they were gonna lose. Right? That's the order of magnitude here. I mean, that firm probably has a revenue stream of about $1 billion a year, right? So I was doing M&A there, mergers and acquisitions, and by the way, people, you hear merger and acquisitions, to kind of make it simple for people, it's like when you eat, you have a salad, you have a steak, and that's the acquisition. A couple of days later, you pass all of that. That's the merger, and I was the colon. It all went through me.
Oh my God. I've never heard it described quite like that.
Well, there you go. And so I started, I don't know why, but like when I was in law school, I would like lie in bed at night and I had these short film ideas and comedy ideas. I always loved watching comedy as a kid. Didn't think I was going to do it. And then I started writing jokes, and I amassed like a 10-page document of jokes in this passworded file at work. And one night, there was this big function that my firm got invited to, and Jay Leno was a private entertainment. So I wasn't going to go.
Jay Leno?
Jay Leno. And I'm doing like hostile tender offers. So I'm working like all-nighters, like 120 hours a week, like, young associate. They just dumping work on my desk. And I'll never forget to this day, I'm about to leave my office, and I go to put my coat on, and I stand up over my keyboard, and I'm like, what the heck? And I hit the print button. And I printed out all those jokes. And Leno performs. Then I go up to Leno after the performance. And I was like, look, I got these jokes, and I'm never going to use them. I'm a lawyer, and you can have them, so I'm never going to use them. And he was like, okay. Like, he really does talk. It's like they're letting helium out of his head. Like his head's moving around like a Macy's Day Parade in the wind. Like it's like you just want to grab his head and go, calm down. And he just took them. Very nice. And then a couple of days later, my phone rings, and this happens. It's Jay Leno. Was Paul there? And I'm like, there's no way this is Jay Leno. I thought it was my friend pulling a prank, because my friend David knew I met Jay Leno, and he does voices. And I thought and I'm like, yeah, really funny, David. He goes, not really, it's Jay Leno. And I was in a really foul mood because I was in the middle of a deal and I was exhausted. I'm like, David, I know it's not Jay Leno. I don't have time for this. No, it's Jay Leno. I go, David, stop. He goes, no, really, it's Jay Leno. And I actually said to Jay Leno, you do a lousy Jay Leno.
What?
Yeah. And he goes,
and he still spoke to you after that.
He did. He goes, nah, he goes, not really. I'm like, oh my God, it's Jay Leno. And he goes, I read your jokes, and I need jokes for the Tonight Show monologue. So I'll send you, you send me material. If I use it, I'll pay you $50 a joke. And then he goes, what do you do for a living? I go, I'm a lawyer and an investment banker. He goes, I knew it. I go, why? He goes, you write like a lawyer. You're too wordy. He goes, get to the punchline already. He goes, you're writing a joke, not the Magna Carta. I was writing like 8 lines of setup to get to a joke. And then a week later, my phone rings again, and it's Jay. And he says, I'm going to do one of your jokes on the Tonight Show. And he does the joke, pays me $50, and it just blows my head off my shoulders.
Wow.
And then he said, try the jokes out before you send them to me. I'm like, how do you do that? He goes, you go to these, bars, dive bars usually, or like, bars that have like a room on a Tuesday night, and like they do open mic nights, And I started to do that. And then I got hooked, and I started to do the jokes, and then I was getting the laughs. And I think what happened was, it took me a long time to figure this out, but like, when you're a lawyer, a banker doing mergers and acquisitions, you're executing, you're processing, right? Mm-hmm. It's creative, but not very. I created these words, put them together, and then it sparked people to laugh and emotionally connect. And I think that was lacking for me in my job on Wall Street.
Wow. This is a really incredible story. And for all of our leaders, learners, and listeners that are tapping in, that, may be on the verge of they're what's next. They're new now next,
Hmm.
right? I pray that folks hear your story and are inspired to be a little bit more curious about what might be on the other side of whatever it is that is holding
Yeah,
them.
and it was scary. I will say, like, a lot of times you say, oh, you read, you watch a movie or you read a book. Oh, he had a dream and he pursued it. And it's like, no, I was really afraid. I had to finally make the leap because I was straddling two worlds. I was living a secret double life. Nobody on Wall Street knew I was a comedian, and no comedians knew I was from Wall Street.
Wow.
Even I was hiding it. I was even hiding it from then my girlfriend, now my wife. And my reason for bringing this part of this up is I had tremendous fear of not having security, fear of not having a nice house and the cars. And I had to fight through that and finally say, look, I'm going to look back and wish I had tried it. I didn't want to be 90 and see a movie and wonder because I was afraid that I wouldn't have a Mercedes and a nice house on the water.
Well,
and so
our thanks for you believing in your own magic and for joining us today on A More Perfect Union. We can't wait to have you back again soon.
Yeah.
When we come forward in our next hour, if you believe in magic, stay right there because we have a special interview with David Blaine, world-renowned magician David Blaine. I think we all need a little bit of magic right now, at least in the midst of all these headlines. More on A More Perfect Union right here on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward. Thank you, Paul.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black Rep Marilyn Strickland says House Republicans are pushing voter suppression by backing extreme ID rules that could block millions, including married women, rural voters, and service members from voting. U.S. Naval Academy has pulled Ron Stallworth's memoir, The Gangs of Zion, A Black Cop's Crusade in Mormon Country,